All right, so we just finished the amazing conversation with Bob Iger, the former CEO and executive chairman of the Disney company, and everything that it encompasses, from all of its media to all of its parks, talking about the ride of a lifetime that he had as the CEO. One of the things that he talked about was the fact that he had done so much through his career to navigate all of the things that had took place over that time span. And that went from repairing a broken relationship with Steve Jobs to basically launching their streaming platform of Disney Plus. And in that window, he did things such as purchase Pixar, he purchased Marvel, purchased Star Wars, and then when they started the Disney Plus system, they actually added the purchase of 20th Century Fox and all of the movies and TV shows that encompassed. So he took on a lot of businesses besides the one that he had already had. So think about that. He was not only responsible for all of the Disney employees, but then he kept purchasing other large companies and then learning how to integrate their culture with the Disney culture, creating one culture. So through that, he said, one of the biggest things that you have to understand as a leader is that you need to be decent to people. Because the thing that people say all the time is, nice people don't finish first. Nice guys finish last. And he said that's the absolute opposite from the truth. He said decent people finish first. And the best way to do that is to make sure that you have interpersonal relationship with the people on your team, not just the people that you work with, but people all throughout your organizations, because the better relationships that you have in your team and with your teams, the better your team is and the better output you have from your team. So he says, make sure that you build trust and create strong relationships, because trust is what builds the strong relationship. You need to, as the leader, show your team what you are doing, what you are willing to do for them, and lead the way. That way you build the trust that allows them to come alongside you and go on that journey with you. You know, we've heard it said all the time, a leader that's leading with no followers is just a person going on a walk. And that is normally what happens to managers, because managers don't tend to build relationships. They just tend to tell people what to do, where to go, and how to do it. Where a leader is somebody that's going to show up, do the work, and bring people along with them. He said the next thing that you have to do is you need to understand that taking big risks equal big wins. And how do you take big risks? Well, you have to take big actions. He said the most risky thing that you can do is not act. He said, when you maintain an average life, it's not a good strategy, because there is no uphill, downhill, then hold in the middle. He said, if you maintain, you are automatically going backwards because you are not climbing. So to make sure that you are climbing and taking big risks and taking big actions, because that continues to move you forward. And he said, when it comes to taking risks and taking actions, most people don't do that because they don't fully believe in what they're doing. So you have to take a look at what you're doing and go, do I truly believe that there's something more out there for me in what I'm doing? Because if that's the case, that will give you the energy, the desire, and the passion that you need to continue going and making those big decisions and those big actions. He said, the next thing that you have to do is you have to rely on your instincts. He goes, but don't just solely rely on your instincts. Make sure you do your homework. So you need your homework done and then make the decision off of that. He said most decisions that people make, when they make it off of their head, heart, and gut, tend to be the right decision long term. But the thing is that until you start developing that and using the information that's provided to you, most people just make the wrong decisions because they're not relying on the information and they haven't developed their instincts. So instinct is something that you can develop over time by using it more and more and more and trusting it more and more and more. And the biggest way to develop it is to make sure that you do your homework. And then when you have that feeling, use that feeling to make the decision. Then he talks about disrupting business, because with purchasing Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, 20th Century Fox, starting Disney Plus, he disrupted a bunch of different businesses, a bunch of different industries. And with that, he said, if someone's going to disrupt your business, shouldn't it be you? Shouldn't you be the one that's going out and doing the crazy things that causes people to question you, what you're doing? You should be the one that's going out and doing the thing that's different, that's causing people to look at you, instead of all of a sudden somebody coming in and doing things different. Again, going back to things being the status quo, if you continue to maintain an average life, it's not going to be a good strategy long term. He talked about being a bridge builder. As a leader, you need to be able to build bridges. He said, one of the problems that we see in society today is so many people express contempt towards one another for having differences of opinions, difference of values. And he said, the problem with that is that keeps small circles. He said, if you want to have a big, large organization that's thriving, he said, you have to understand that you are going to have people with varying opinions, varying cultures, varying beliefs, because that's what happens when you have people. He said, if you focus on building bridges and having open conversations, make sure that when you're having those, you go in with the mindset of, we're going to do all of this in love, not anger. He said, what happens is most people go into spaces with having these conversations and they don't want to listen. They just want to wait for their turn to talk. And when they talk out of an anger emotion, as opposed to a listening and loving thought process. So when you are working with your teams, look and ask yourself, how can I add love to this? And how can I build a bridge that will bring somebody closer to me? Because that's what bridges do. They bring people closer together. And then finally, he said, to be a great leader, you have to be an optimist. Now, you've heard me say this time and time again. To be an entrepreneur, you have to be an eternal optimist. And then he adds this to it, with a dose of realism. He said, nobody wants to follow a pessimist. That's why you see 99.999% of leaders are optimistic. He said it's important for leaders to call it like it is, with the dose of realism, and set expectations for the future. Because if you don't do that, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment and for people to not trust you. So if you bring people along and you know that the journey is going to be long and hard, but you tell them that it's going to be short and quick, what does that do to your reputation and your trust level with them? It automatically lowers it when they find out that it's not exactly what you told them it was going to be. He said, if you're nothing but optimistic, you don't prepare yourself and your team for what's in store. So be positive, be optimistic, but also tell the reality. You may not know everything there is to know that's coming up. I mean, think about that. For him, when he was in Disney, he had just retired right before COVID. So then all of a sudden they had this transition to a new CEO, and then COVID hits. Well, he came back on as an advisor to the CEO in almost an interim CEO position to help navigate that storm, because of the fact that they had not seen or foreseen that something like this was going to happen. So as the leader, you are absolutely optimistic, but you're letting people know that you're going where no one has gone before. That's what leaders do. They blaze a trail. And sometimes you don't know if the left turn that you took was a good one or the right one was the right one. So letting people know that you are going down that path and that you don't know what's in store, but you're preparing people that things could not turn out the way that they're supposed to be, helps them follow you along that journey. And then he said, it is ever so important that you always infuse a sense of hope in people. He said, when people have hope, they will continue to always move forward, regardless of what it is that they're going through. When people lose hope, they lose the will to live. He said, if you look at the way that people are designed to look towards the future, to look towards a better future. And when somebody takes that away or makes people think that there is no better future for tomorrow, that's when all of a sudden things become worse and worse and worse. So, excuse me, he said, your goal as a leader is to infuse optimism and hope in people, to help them go out and do more, be more, think more, and achieve more that without you, they would otherwise not have taken place. Guys, that's what my hope is for you today, guys. Go out, bring optimism, bring hope to people, go out and make it an amazing day. And I hope your day is awesome as you are. See you again next time.